Hey everyone, it's Lexi. So in today's video I'll be sharing with you all the books that I ended up reading in the month of July. So overall it was a well-rounded month. There were books that I loved, books that I hated, and everything in between. So I feel like this month covered a good variety of genres as well, which is always fun. So it was a well-rounded reading month. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So starting out, I first read the Tales and Teacups book club picks for the months of July and August, which was State of Terror by Hillary Clinton and Louise Penny. So if you're still interested in participating, you basically have until the month of August, but you can always, if you read this later on in the year or just years from now, you can always comment on my review, which I'll have linked up in the cards. But this follows a woman named, I'm forgetting her name, I want to say it's like Ellen, this is so bad, yeah, Ellen Adams, who is the newly appointed Secretary of State, and she was kind of appointed Secretary of State by the president to, in a way for him to kind of silence his biggest adversary. But when these kind of string of terrorist attacks starts to take place throughout Europe, they realize that there is some connection to something bigger going to transpire in the United States. So it follows her trying to figure out what is going on and eventually kind of picking up the puzzle pieces to get to what they need to figure out and who is behind all this. And I really liked it. It was super suspenseful, and it was just really it made me realize I never want to be Secretary of State. I can't because I'm Canadian, but nevertheless I think for this one it's just a job that requires a lot of skill, and how very thin kind of the balance is between peace and war. And I thought this book did a really good job at showcasing the reality of someone in this situation and things that the decisions they have to make. And I think when I was reading the kind of afterward from the authors, there were 3 scenarios that always kept Hillary Clinton up at night, and they picked one of those that really kind of stuck with her even now. And just the writing between Hillary Clinton's personal experience being Secretary of State, and then also Louise Penny's kind of writing, this made such a fun political thriller. I felt at times my heart rate was up, I was just so invested in this story and what was gonna happen. So it was really well done. I haven't read a political thriller like this, so I was kind of stepping outside of my comfort zone, but I really enjoyed how it played out. It was just a lot of fun. It was super suspenseful, well written, and if you're a fan of Louise Penny's Inspector Gamache series, there is some appearance of a few characters as well, which I was not expecting, but I really enjoyed that. So like I said, yeah, this was really good. I was holding off reading this, but I'm surprised I hadn't picked it up sooner, just because I love Louise Penny and I'm just very much inspired by Hillary Clinton. So like I said, I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. It was really good, and there was kind of an open ending too, that there might be a sequel. I don't know, there hasn't been anything announced, but I would definitely keep my eyes peeled for that if there is a new sequel coming out. But if you're trying to step outside your comfort zone and trying a political thriller, I think this is a great book to kind of start with. Next up, we have this terrible book, and it is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This book, I do have a reading blog kind of showcasing my experience to this, but basically this book is terrible. It is garbage. It is probably one of the worst books I've ever read in my entire life. If you want to go have a good laugh, I would go check out my vlog of this, but I wanted to see what all the hype is about this book. I'm not on Book Talk or anything, but I do see a few book talk videos on my Pinterest page, and this is one of the series that's very popular on there. So I was you know what, we'll see. I've heard really mixed things, so I wanted to see where I fell within this. People either love it or hate it, and I definitely hated this book. There are a lot of problems with this book, and if you can go check out my vlog when I get more in depth, but a lot of it, one of the main things that stood out was the writing in here. She uses a lot of ellipses, so a lot of dots in places that don't make sense. Poppy, as the main character, is the maiden, and she is this pure thing who needs to be a virgin in order to get ascended, which they don't explain what that is in here. But she ends up crossing paths with this guard who is very much interested in them, and it kind of leads to a forbidden romance. And this is kind of like a Twilight like version of this, where it kind of went in a direction that I wasn't expecting, and it was just bad. There is racism in here, there is kind of a lack of consent as well. The writing is just terrible, and it's like, if like the kind of the TikTok generation is like obsessed with this book and thinks it's amazing, then I think our future is not going in a good direction. Like, we're just doomed, I think, as a society, if like this is like the good entertainment. But yeah, like it was just so bad, and then I was just hate reading it at the end. The writing, like I said, the biggest standpoint for me, in addition to just like the terrible characters and Poppy, and just a plot that didn't make sense where they don't explain anything to you, it was the writing. The writing was really bad. I don't think it was very well done. It was just overall a bad book. If I could give this book 0 stars, I would. But yeah, this is just probably one of the worst books I've read in my entire life. Next up, I have Listen to Me by Tess Gerritsen, and this is the newest installment in the Rizzle and Isle series, which I was so excited about. I think the author probably just had a lot of time on her hands during like COVID, so she ended up writing this book, which I was really happy about, because I thought the most recent one that came out in 2017, I Know a Secret, was the last one. But I hope she continues on with this series, because I do really love this, especially rereading the series throughout the year. It made me kind of re-fall in love with these characters again, which I really enjoyed. So this one kind of follows Jane, who is investigating this kind of random murder of this nurse that seems kind of very random. Like, they can't really figure out what this is, but it obviously leads to something bigger, and I don't want to spoil it. I think it's kind of just best not to go into this. But what is interesting about this book here, this book here, is that we do get Angela's perspective, who is Jane's mom, and usually we just kind of get her kind of through the perspective of either Jane and Mara. So this time around we kind of get to see what kind of is going on with her mind, and I did love kind of getting to explore this character as well. My one complaint about this one is that I could like guess early on what was kind of like the big plot reveal, which is very rare in the cases for her books. And also, I wanted more of Mara. I feel like she was very much at arm's length. We don't get a lot of her perspectives in here. Like, I still don't really know what she's doing in this one besides playing in the orchestra. So like I said, I don't really know what she was doing during this one, but nevertheless, it was nice to revisit these characters again and see what they're up to. I hope she writes more books in this series, because like I said, I just really love this. This was what made me really fall in love with the crime genre. So I gave this one like a 4 out of 5 stars, kind of like a 3.5, between like 3.75, just because I felt like this wasn't up to the standard as some of the other ones, but nevertheless, I still really enjoyed this. And then lastly, I ended up reading the first 2 books in the Gilded Wolves trilogy by Roshani, Chokshi, the first book being the Gilded Wolves, and the second book being the Silvered Serpents. And I will have a vlog video kind of talking about my perspective of reading these books, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Will be coming out sometime in the next few weeks. But I've heard really great things, and I think this is kind of a low-key kind of unknown fantasy series. I've heard Sam on Thoughts on Tomes talk about this, and Leonie from the book Leo as well talk about this, but I have not, like I said, for the most part I haven't seen a lot about this, and I was just really excited to kind of dive into this. It takes place in the late 1800s, and we follow these groups of characters in Paris, where this world kind of has like foraging magic, where people can kind of control like metals or ice and blood, like those type of things. And when they get approached by one of the heads of these houses that like kind of oversee the magic within France, to kind of steal something in order to steal something for one of the head of the houses, Severin, who is the main character, uses that as a way to kind of get back his inheritance. He was supposed to be one of the head of the houses, but he was kind of thrown out of that, so he wants to use this as leverage to get back into what he thinks is rightfully his. And it kind of goes off from there. This thing kind of is like Six of Crows-esque with like that heist. Sorry, my sister is making a smoothie. I really hate that thing. She does it sometimes, like she's doing it now at a normal time, but sometimes she does it at like 5:30 a.m. and my bedroom's on the main floor, which I don't appreciate because I can hear it. But I really like this. It's kind of like Six of Crows-esque, where you have like these group of characters that are thrown into a situation to kind of steal this. And I will say the first 100 pages in the Gilded Wolves was very hard to kind of get a grasp of things. I felt like the author kind of struggled with setting up and establishing these characters and kind of just explaining the world. I was very, very much confused, but once kind of the heist starts to take place and the plot kind of gets moving, I felt like I was really enjoying it, and the ending of this one was just fantastic. And so this one I gave a 3 out of 5 stars. Like I said, I did struggle with kind of the first part of this, but I really loved the second one. It was kind of worth kind of the struggle of this one, but I really liked it. In this one, the characters are kind of all mad at each other, and I do like character drama, and just the dynamics of these characters interacting with each other I thought was really good. Like I said, I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. It was very obvious who the villain was in here, but I was still very much kind of taken aback with how things played out, even though I was able to guess who the villain was, but I was still very much shocked with the ending in here, and just seeing the dynamics of the characters and kind of what they're kind of working through with the events that took place kind of at the end of this one. I really enjoyed seeing them, how they were going about this, which was just really, really fun and interesting. So overall, like I said, I really enjoyed this one, and this one again ended on like a crazy ending, and I was like, oh my goodness. So currently I'm reading the third and final book as well. So yeah, I think a lot of people are sleeping on this series. Like I said, it was a little bit of a struggle with this one, the first book, but I just love these characters. I think they are all very dynamic. They all have flaws. They're all working on certain things, and I think the author handles it in such a really good way. One character has autism, but just the way like these characters are just respectful of her autism and are aware of it, and they don't make her feel less than just because she has a few things that make her a little bit different, and I love it. There's a lot of puzzles in here as well, which is a lot of fun. As an engineer, I love all that stuff. So yeah, like I said, this is probably, I think recently, this is probably one of my new favorite kind of YA fantasy series. So that's why I said I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on this. So yeah, really loving it, and I can't wait to read the final book. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what books you read this month and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.